Welcome to the 3 Degrees of Freedom podcast, where we explore lifestyle engineering with our expert guests to bring you in alignment with your own 3 degrees of freedom, location, time, and financial independence. And today we've got Dan on the show. Hey, Dan, how are you today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Cool. For those who don't know, Dan is a seasoned real estate veteran with over 15 years experience in various areas of the industry of real estate. He started his career by house hacking and then went on to flip houses in the Detroit metro area, eventually founding the Renaissance Real Estate Ventures, which focuses on the acquisition, financing, renovation, and resale of single-family residential properties in Detroit. And Dan's also worked as a senior advisor at Fortis Net Lease, a former business development executive for Amazon Detroit, and currently serves as the senior director, of Encore Real Estate Investment Services, specializing in commercial properties such as shopping centers, medical offices, and restaurants. Dan's also an avid runner, boxer, weightlifter, a yogi, which is interesting. We'll talk about that, and a guitarist who lives with his wife and 5 kids in Birmingham, Michigan. Like I said before the show started, we've seen a lot of each other's content on LinkedIn, and I've respected you ever since I stepped onto the stage, which was back in COVID, I believe. And that was when both you and I were really active and trying to figure out what the heck is going on with real estate at that point in time. But before we jump there and start at the beginning, why don't you tell a little bit of the audience about what it is that you do currently, which is triple net, for those who are unfamiliar with that space?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the senior director here at Encore Real Estate Investment Services, and we're a specialized net lease investment sales brokerage. We sell all over the country. Last year, we did $985 million in transactions in 43 different states. So we specialize in net lease, which there's a wider arena in terms of the different types of products that we deal with. But in general, the typical cookie cutter net lease property is what's called an absolute triple net property. And what that means is that the landlord has zero responsibilities. The landlord merely collects the rent. So think about your typical single tenant property like a CVS or a Walgreens, or maybe a McDonald's or a Wendy's or a dollar store, for example. So with those properties, the lease actually dictates how much rent the tenant will pay throughout the entire duration of the lease, which could be anywhere from 10, 15, 20, even 25 years. And all expenses, for example, taxes, insurance, maintenance, repair, snow plowing, et cetera, all of those expenses are actually paid for by the tenant. So the rent that's prescribed in the lease is actually net to the investor. There's absolutely no expenses whatsoever. We do deal with a lot of double net properties, which are similar to what I just described, with the exception that the landlord is responsible for certain things like roof and the structure of the building, and in some cases, a parking lot as well. And in addition, we do sell, myself specifically, a lot of shopping centers. So what I would call multi-tenant retail properties, in which case there's even more of a management component to the asset. But in general, the properties that we're selling are long-term leases, very stable, located, great tenants, a lot of security and stability and guarantee for the investor.
I love it. And one thing I have to clarify too is when you say tenants, that could be something as lofty as like a Panera or Chipotle or something like that. So I just want people to put in their mind that like tenants could be any type of operating company.
Oh yeah. Right now, just as we speak, I'm in escrow right now, scheduled to close in the imminent future. I've got an Advanced Auto Parts, which most people are familiar with, CVS Pharmacy, Burger King, which pretty much everybody is familiar with, and then some shopping centers that have a barrage of different tenants. I know I'm forgetting one. But yeah, the tenant list is, like you said, major national tenants that everyone's heard of. These are huge corporations, and it's about as secure and stable as you can get.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I have to admit that I am a novice when it comes to these retail and triple net or double net type of leases, but I do know that in the future, it's something I want to expand into. So I appreciate you filling that in for us for those who are looking for financial freedom, or maybe even some time and location freedom as well. This is something for you to definitely explore later on down the road. But before we go into that a little bit more on the end, let's start talking about you in general. So as you went through your career, it looks like you were doing some house hacking and you flipped some houses back in Detroit. What were you ever in the W-2 world, or have you always been in sales? And if so, what is the difference to you and why did you pick the path that you're going right now?
Yeah, so I've definitely been in the W-2 field. I ran a sales department for a title insurance agency. Actually, no, that was not W-2. I take that back. That was an independent contractor position. But I did work for a large private day school doing fundraising as a W-2 position. And I did work for Amazon as a business development executive. So I definitely know and understand what it's like to work in corporate America. When I left Amazon, Amazon was my last W-2 job. I left late 2017, early 2018. We're talking, what, 5 years already? Wow.
Yeah.
Time has flown. But that was my last position. That was like a guaranteed salary position. I've been a commercial real estate broker ever since. When I was flipping houses full time, I also had no W-2 income. Listen, there's pluses and minuses to everything. I'll never go back to corporate America. I'll never go back to a W-2. I'm just not that type of person. From the simple basics of, I don't like being told when to show up at work, when to go home. I don't like being limited to how much money to make. I don't like having to eat my lunch at a certain time. And I also don't like, this is going to be a double negative, but what can you do? I don't like not being rewarded commensurate to how hard I work, right? So as a commercial real estate broker, I do have time freedom and I have location freedom and I can work from anywhere. But I also have a certain level of financial freedom insofar as, obviously there's other factors outside of our control, but really the amount of money that I make is 100% up to me, right? It's up to me in terms of how hard I work, how effectively I work, how efficiently I work, what systems I have in place, and what I do. In that regard, I love it. I love being independent and having this freedom, having the responsibility. There's a certain element of a thrill to it, but I know that, hey, if I show up today and the next day and the next day and the next day and work a little bit harder, there's a very high likelihood that I'm going to get a little bit more. I'm going to have more deals and more closings. So that's awesome. I will say that there are certain things that make a W-2 attractive to pretty much everyone, myself included. And that's paycheck stability, right? In commercial real estate brokerage, there are times when I can go many months without getting paid.
Yeah.
And even as much as I love what I'm doing, sometimes that does weigh on me. And I start thinking, oh man, what if I would just go back to what I was doing? Thankfully, I'm able to stop myself very quickly and remember all these things I'm telling you, because the freedom that comes along with this and the opportunity that comes along with it greatly outweigh the bit of discomfort that is also associated with being your own boss.
Yeah, we're very well said. And I actually experienced that myself when I was working the W-2. The stroke of inspiration I had was that, just like you said, I was realizing that I was working so hard, right, to build someone else's machine or build someone else's, you name it, XYZ, that adds value in the marketplace. And regardless of how much upside I provide the company, the only way they compensate me is through my time. And that's the only way that they know how to do that, because that's how it worked back then. One of the things that really got me thinking about this is jumping into a sales-oriented job. And I never did. I went straight from W-2 to becoming an investor. And I guess as an investor, you can call yourself a salesman in one way or another. But I always resonated very well with that. And I can tell that you caught on to it very early in your, which is awesome. So let's move on here just a little bit. Okay. Before I do that, I do want to ask you a little bit about mindset, because there is a little bit of a subtle shift that goes between a W-2 and then the sales mentality where you're like, shoot, it's hard, man. Maybe I'll go back to being a W-2. Where did that change? Like, what did you do to change that mentality of saying, okay, I'm working a W-2. Now I can really pick myself up by my own bootstraps and start doing my own sales? Like, where did that mindset come in, and how did that get inspired in you?
Yeah, so just to clarify, I think that the same techniques and the same mindset that I put myself in today, it's very similar to what I was doing when I was at Amazon, because at Amazon, it was important for me to be the number one sales guy in the company. I wanted to be at the top of the leaderboard. And what's funny is I remember back then, the sales managers exploited that, right? Because there were always contests and the leaderboard was always coming up. And of course, I'm number one this week. What do I get? Maybe a round of applause. That's it. And the manager is like, oh, this is awesome. This guy's got an ego problem.
That's right.
Let me exploit that. Let me find somebody else with an ego problem.
Yeah.
So
and
anyway,
let's give them free coffee, right? Let's do that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that same hustle and determination I use in my current situation. It's just that now I know that, hey, I'm gonna hustle. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna compete against myself, and there are going to be results. So that, that the same mindset is there and the same strategies are there. I will tell you that when I first got into brokerage, I had the mindset, and I guess the mindset that I had made sense and it worked. Basically, my mindset was, I have to be successful. There's no other way. Like, I've got a family to provide for, and there's no paycheck coming. There's no weekly paycheck or biweekly or monthly. It's, I got to hustle and I got to find deals and close deals, and that's how I'm going to get paid. So for me, I became successful in this industry by necessity. Like, I had no other choice. And quite frankly, there are certain times, like when I see a market shift or when my business is slowing down, I go back to that same mentality. Like, by default, I say, Dan, what are you going to do? You're going to stop and you're going to sit back and you're going to just take it easy, right? Or what's that going to turn into? Where will that take you? And I tap into that same energy and I say, you know what? No, I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got a wife, I have to be successful. I really tap into that as there is no other option. That's just been my mindset. I don't know if it's the best option. It works for me, but it's not something, that part of it is not something I ever tapped into with a W-2, because a W-2, show up, excel, don't excel, you get your paycheck. Here, if I am able to successfully implement that plan, I can be rewarded in a huge way.
Yeah, you and your family as well. And I think I love that. Last thing I'm going to say about this, because this is awesome to me, because I went through the exact same experience, is that I asked that question because for me, I actually had to overcome a mindset change, because the mindset of being someone where you collect a paycheck and you're secure, to now intentionally leaning into the fact that you're living off your own metal. And the reason I was able to do that and go directly full-time into multifamily real estate is because my mentors told me that every time I got myself in a situation where I was falling, I always found a way, no matter what, because of resourcefulness, to land on my 2 feet. It never was anywhere. There was no evidence that it was going to be something like that. And so I used that fire to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not collecting a paycheck out of security now. I have to get something done, hustle and grind. That was something that I did, that I had to do in order to make it work in this space. I just utilized that part of my personality to make it happen. So I love that you said that too. And it seems like for you, you've had that all along. It just was a little bit of a tweak, and you're like, yeah, I'll just make some more upside by working hard for myself. So I love that.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit more. One more thing about your early past that will help us get to where we are currently. Your house hacking and your flipping business.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about how, when you were doing that, most likely on the side, I would imagine, as you're either working W-2 or sales in another venture, how did that help complement your career, and then vice versa? How did your career in the house hacking and flipping business help you to scale your degree?
Yeah. So house hacking was how I got into single family residential flipping, right? I had to buy a house for my family, and I had a couple options. One option was a house that was ready to go for X price, and the other option was a bank-owned home. Keep in mind, this was in the last recession. A bank-owned home for half the price that I could renovate, live in for a while, and flip. And I chose the latter because I had actually been living overseas with my family, and the means were modest at the time, and that made the most sense. And I learned a lot from doing that, and it really lit some fire in me. And I couldn't stop this. Oh, let me find a house under value and renovate it and sell it. And I just kept doing that and doing that over the years, over and over and over again. And eventually, when I left the corporate world, I actually first went into house flipping full time before I went into commercial brokerage. And house flipping full time, it's actually worse than what I'm doing now, because you have to invest a ton of capital in, right? It's not just like you're not getting paid, it's you're investing money in and putting more and more, and then flipping and making a little profit and going on to the next one, rinse and repeat. So I did that for a long time, and eventually I decided that it would be, in the long run, more fruitful to be a commercial real estate broker. I still continue to flip houses on the side, but never as a full-time gig. So I guess your question was, how did that experience like kind of complement going into and doing what I'm doing right now? Yeah, I think that the answer to that question is that same thing that you touched on a few minutes ago, which is that when I was flipping, like I had to be successful, right? It was all on me. And then it wasn't just on me to provide for my family. I had people that were working for me full time. Their livelihood, I had to pay them. I had to make sure that they got paid. So there was that same feeling of necessity, that same feeling of urgency. And I can say to you today, I was having a conversation this weekend. I've got a deal right now that's under contract. I typically like to, wherever possible, represent the seller and the buyer. I'm a listing guy. I chase after listings. I like having that control. Most of my listings, I end up representing the buyer as well. There's a lot of reasons why. But for me, I like having control, and I like knowing that I can move the transaction forward. When there's a broker on the buy side, you never know how that broker is going to be. They might be great to work with, they might not. So I'm working on a deal right now, and I was talking to someone this weekend about it, and I was just explaining how, like, with me, there's always a sense of urgency, right? We have a letter of intent that's signed. Okay, well, let's get the signature from the other party right now. Okay, the purchase agreement draft is in my inbox. Let's get it to the lawyer right now. Oh, it came back. Let's get it to the other side right now. Because you know what? These deals that I'm working on, from the moment I get involved in the deal to the moment it closes, could be 3 months minimum, could be 9 months or 12 months, right? Every time that I'm able to shave off a couple of days or a day or even a few hours, I'm able to speed that along, and that helps me and it helps my clients, right? I'm in the middle of a deal right now where the agents on the other side, there's zero sense of urgency. And that's not the way that I run my business. And it is actually quite frustrating for me. But the reason that I'm bringing this up is that I think that this whole experience of being independent and being responsible for my livelihood has created a sense of urgency that actually makes me better at my job.
Yeah, very well said. And it sounds like I'm listening to myself as well. That sense of urgency is such an important thing to move forward. And obviously, that is what you need when you have a team of people that are working for you, and you've got a market where you've got hard money on a house or something, right? So every day that goes by is a day you're paying interest, and no one seems to be motivated except for you because you're carrying that note. One thing I do want to mention too, that maybe you skipped over there, in your house flipping business, you said that you had a team. I know that in a W-2 world, as a business developer, maybe you were a leader in a team as well, and you're managing people. But when it's your own business, you have to learn how to work with other people, whether you're paying them directly or whether they're coworkers or whether they're people above you. That's something that I think you may have also picked up inherently as an extra skill that's really valuable in what you do day to day, is learning how to work with other people on all sides, right? Whether they're your client, whether they're your colleague, or whether they're your employee.
Absolutely. And it's something that I deal with to this day. I have, for example, I have a junior broker that works for me, and we're doing a deal together right now. And he gave me a call this morning and he said, Dan, like, I've seen that you just like jumped into the transaction. You're handling everything. Is that okay? Am I doing enough? And I said to him, listen, you're so right. And I had this dilemma this morning when I got here. And that was, do I just do it myself because I'll be efficient and I know how to do it? Or do I stop and have you do it with me to train you and show you every aspect? And we came up with a little bit of a middle ground for this deal, but it doesn't come natural for me. I am not a manager. It's not my strength. It's not my biggest core proficiency, but it's something that, to the extent that I need to do it, I've worked on cultivating, and I'm eager to continue to refine those skills.
Yeah, very good. I actually struggle with the same thing. I like to jump on things really quickly, and some of my partners on some of the deals that we have, like, I start to get overwhelmed because I'm jumping on top of things and trying to provide solutions quickly so that I cannot be the bottleneck, Dan. Like, as a project manager, I was trained to not be the bottleneck ever and just convey communication and make decisions wherever needed, to step in for someone. And it definitely is a muscle. It sounds odd, right, to a lot of people out there, but when you do this for such a long time, you're so proactive and you're looking to get things done quickly and efficiently. It's just something you have to unlearn and trust your team, right? To that they'll take care of it. And maybe all they need is controls and leadership to help move them in the same direction that you are. No one's ever going to be you, but just because you get it done one way doesn't mean it can't get done another. I just think that's a really well said thing. I applaud your self-awareness and your transparency for telling us that.
Sure.
One thing I was going to say is, as you start working up the degrees of freedom, which is location freedom, time freedom, and financial, which I would argue you probably have access to all three of those, with some exceptions because you got 5 kids at home. So that's that kind of brings a little bit of interesting dynamics into the picture. I want to ask you, would you say that your work life and your home life are more integrated than it has been ever because you're walking this balance of having some freedom? Or do you still think that they're polarized right now?
That's a good question. I think that the truthful answer to that is that when I was working a W-2 job, I think that my home life was more separate than my work life. And I think that was a good thing because it allowed me, I didn't even have work email on my phone. So when I left the office, like I was at home and I was doing whatever I wanted and I was able to be very present. I think that for me, and this is a very big struggle for me, is that because I'm in a position where during the times when things are down, I want to keep hustling to make something happen. And B, when things are moving really fast, we got a lot of deal flow, I want to keep those deals moving. For me, the hardest thing is stepping away. Yeah, I think that the true assessment of the situation is that in my current situation, I have less of a division between my work life and my personal life. And maybe to a certain extent, I would benefit from being able to better separate those.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think that having an integrated home and work life is okay if you have the systems to help you, right, with this, because the more that you have your time and location freedom and even your financial freedom lined up, you should in time be able to set yourself up so that you've got systems and people doing things for you, right? So that way you're working all the time, so to speak, but on your own terms, right? On the things that truly line up with what your passion is. And I can feel that right now, like you're moving in that direction. And I applaud you for doing that because you're pursuing something and you're building something on your own. Let me talk about maybe some advice that you can give people. Can you advise people to find out like how they can find what they're passionate about if they don't have any of these degrees of freedom? If they don't have any time freedom, location freedom, or financial freedom, or they're struggling really hard, what advice would you be able to give those folks who are pursuing them?
Yes. So in terms of figuring out what someone wants to do in order to get there, is that what you're asking?
Correct.
So I think that first it would be important for that person to ask themselves, like, if nothing else mattered, right? If money was no object, you've got $1 trillion. If possessions were no object, you have everything that you want. If you can live wherever you want, what would you be doing? What is important to you? And then working backwards from there. So that would get a person to a point of, what do I need to do in order to get to that place? And then I would also tell someone, like, I'm a firm believer that, like, you've got this moment. I could plan for my future and do all these great things, and God forbid I could get hit by a bus, tomorrow. I'm a big believer that it's important to be doing what you want to be doing now. What I just said is figure out what you need to do to get to the place that you want to get. But then also, whatever it is that you came up with, which is the thing that you would be doing if you didn't need to be doing anything at all, try to find a job or a position or an entrepreneurial opportunity that incorporates as much of that as possible. Like for me, I love real estate. So I'm in a job where I get to talk about real estate all day long, right? And I love like putting deals together. I'm in a job that I get to put deals together all day long. Yeah, it's still a job. I'm still doing it because I want to build something and I want to support my family. But even on my worst days, I still have those elements that give me purpose and meaning. And even more importantly, maybe they allow me to shine, right? They allow me to do what I firmly believe that I'm good at. there's nothing worse than being in a situation habitually where you're not being challenged and you're not able to express who you really are. So I would say it's very important to find a situation and a scenario that allows you to shine and to be who you are, and then just work towards that goal, whatever it is. And keep in mind that it is a journey, not just a short sprint. And maybe you're not going to have those 3 freedoms today or tomorrow, or even in a year or a few years, but maybe you're going to, as long as you're getting closer. Because if you just say, you know what, it's so far away, I'm never going to try, you're never going to get any closer. And then one day you're going to wake up and say, man, if I only would have taken a few steps every day, I would have gotten there by now. I think that's really important to keep in mind.
Yeah, great. I love that long-term view on this, and also finding out, like taking the time to really do some soul searching and figure out what gives you power, what gives you energy. Because I can tell that real estate fills you up. Like it's
Yeah.
something that really gives you purpose, right? To serve the world. And so I think that that's really important. And then great advice in finding a job in a related field that has some sort of those components there that gets you closer to where you actually want to be. And you can just pivot from there. So I love that. Last question I have as a normal question, then we're going to head into our rapid round to wrap this up a little bit, is obviously right now we're in Q2 of 2023, or heading into Q2 of 2023, and things are pretty nuts right now. We had some Silicon Bank failures, or Silicon Valley Bank failed. There's a couple of banks in New York that just went down or needed some government assistance to get rescued. What would you say to those who are looking to create financial freedom in the current market right now? What advice would you give them during this very volatile and interesting time?
I would say look around at everything you just mentioned. That should be evidence and impetus for the fact that you need to create your own financial freedom yourself. It's very difficult to rely on anyone or anything to provide that for you. It's just not realistic that it's going to be there. So I would say right now, we're in a time of great opportunity. There are a lot of headwinds and a lot of movement in different sectors of the market. We've seen interest rates, including today's hike. The federal funds rate has gone up from zero, the target funds rate, 0 to 25 basis points, or 0.25%, all the way up to 4.75 to 5%. So that's insane. That's a huge change. Banks are failing. There's huge mergers of banks to prevent failures. Right now, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Here's another example. If you look at the changes in the debt market, everything I just described has happened over the last 12 months. March 16th of 2022, which is just barely over a year from today, was when these rate hikes started. And a lot of the property owners across the country have property, and I'm sure anybody who's involved in commercial real estate understands this, that a good portion of commercial real estate loans have 5-year balloons, right? So 5-year terms. So every 5 years or more frequently, they get refinanced. So all of that debt that was put on properties at very low rates for years, it's starting to come due now. So those owners are not going to be able to refinance at current rates and still keep their same cash flow. So what that's going to do is that's going to cause like a cascade of property owners that are going to have to sell. That's opportunity. That's just one example of how volatility creates opportunity. So because of all the volatility that's gone on in the world and in the markets, that's going to create a lot of opportunity. I would tell anybody that's out there that's listening, another important thing, piggybacking off of what I said a few minutes ago, is that don't sit back and wait. Don't say, oh, the market it's not a good market. I see so many people doing this, investors, brokers, syndicators. They say, it's not a good market. I'm going to sit back and wait until things even out. I can tell you something. There are deals in every single market. It doesn't matter. In fact, in markets like this that are largely fear-driven markets, fear is a driver of market inefficiency. So when you have an inefficient market, you have a lot of opportunity. And that's what's going on right now, today, in front of us. So if you're out there and you're watching and you're trying to establish time freedom or financial freedom or location freedom, now is your opportunity. Don't wait till tomorrow. You can probably get further today than you will be able to in the future. And all of those advances are going to help you exponentially, because the experience that you get by doing those deals or taking those steps right now makes you a better asset and a more refined person to be able to take those moves tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that those skills and that experience and that wisdom, it keeps adding on top of each other. So if you wait, you're not just like losing that time period, but you're losing all the compounded experience and all the compounded wisdom and capital and everything that you could get if you just start today. So that's the message, is to start today, grab the bull by the horns, and keep going.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you, Dan, for commenting on that, because I couldn't agree with you more. People that are taking a break right now, it takes time to get the machine rolling again, right? And by the time you get that machine rolling again, you have other people that are already still on it, and you have brokers that are contacting them and lenders that know them. And I completely agree with you. I think that there's a big thing that comes with momentum. And if you don't get started, you may end up missing the actual buy point, right? The optimal buy point, which who knows? It may be now. You never know.
Yeah.
And so, timing the market is never a good thing. And as long as you're buying, real estate in general, as well as the stock market, has a general trend upwards. And so you just got to hold on. And I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of these 5-year products that are becoming due, and exit strategies are slowly disappearing for some of these operators who bought incorrectly. Maybe they overpaid, or maybe they put the wrong debt structure in place, or maybe they had the wrong business strategy. And what I would say too, that's also out there, Dan, is there are people out there that have a 3-year bridge loan, and we're coming to the end of it and they don't have an extension. That means that they're going to have to probably get a more expensive loan that's going to put them in negative cash flow territory, or forced to sell. And either one of those options is going to put them in a position where they're going to have to lose, more or less, right? Just because that's the way the market is. An investor can't go in and pay to lose money. So the market's going to, because the debt service cost will be so high for the purchase price compared to how it was before. Completely agree with you. You got to keep moving. And this market is more, it's more about momentum and continuously moving so that you can ride the waves and be successful in the long run. That's my thought.
Yeah. And when things shift, like I liken this to the beginning of COVID. At the beginning of COVID, I was talking to brokers who were telling me they were going to write the year off, 6 months or a year. They were just going to sit back and do whatever they wanted. And I was like, dude, this is not the time for that. So when I watched other people put their foot on the brakes, I put both my feet on the gas. And I saw in my business a market difference in elevation about 6 months later. And when I started seeing what was going on in the market this time around, I said the same thing. I said, you know what? And you know me, I like to listen to the Fed meetings and pay attention to all that stuff.
Yeah.
But after I listened to it, I put it in a box and I put it over here and I put my blinders on, because that's just noise. I can't control any of that stuff, but what I can control is my actions and my inputs and my systems and how hard I work. And I know, just like you said, that if I'm here every day in, day out, grinding and getting it done, I'm going to do just fine during whatever market it is. But once things start to swing the other way, or once there's that cascade of debt that comes due, and now all those properties are hitting the market, who's going to be there to catch it? It's the guy or the girl that's been working all along.
That's right. I love it. Thank you, Dan. And for those of you out there that are listening right now that are not in the real estate industry, please know that this is also happening in your industry too. If there's something happening if you're in the tech space, please continue to work on your skills and continue working hard. Don't just write it off and just wait, right? Like these are the times that no one is willing or wanting to work. That's when you end up becoming way more successful than your peers, right? So last thing we're going to do here is I've got the rapid round. It's 5 or 6 questions that I ask every single one of my guests, and it's meant to be answered in about 30 seconds or less. So if you're ready, we're just going to go ahead and rapidly ask them of you if you're ready.
Let's do it.
Number 1, name any resource that was or is essential in your journey to pursue your freedom.
I would say information, knowledge, reading, web articles, social media, all that.
Just being all consuming of the content.
Yeah.
Got it. Number 2, if you woke up and your business was gone, you had $500, a laptop, a place to live, and some food, what do you think you would do first?
Yeah, I would start cold calling property owners and just rebuild my brokerage business, do the same thing again.
I love it. Number 3, what does your self-reflection and goal setting practice look like?
It's not original. It's like stolen from Napoleon Hill. And I firmly believe that, by the way. If you can't figure it out yourself, steal it from somebody else.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I have my certain metrics that I want to hit each year, and I have them in my mind, and I think about them, and I internally act like I have them, and I envision them, I meditate on them. I spend time like at night before I go to bed thinking about what it's going to be like to have them, whatever they are. It's not just like a monetary goal. It can be, a number of deals. It can be things for my family. It can be a lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. And believe it or not, that's like the most powerful. That's like even more powerful than these behavioral things that I've been talking about, the inputs. But it's really as simple as if the mind can conceive it and believe it, then it can be achieved.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Napoleon Hill is awesome. And I love that you're pulling that wisdom from him. That's awesome. Number 4, what are the core work habits that you mostly attribute to your success? I think I already know this one, but go ahead.
Consistency, like with
Yeah.
social media, when I'm in it, like I do it every day. So definitely consistency. I think I don't know what I would call this, but that the idea that I stick to my principles regardless of what's going on. So I put the blinders on and I say, okay, I know that today I have to send out this many emails, I have to do this many cold calls, I have to get this many listings, and I have to have this many closings, and I'm going to make that happen. And then I vehemently stay away from negativity. If I'm in an environment, like I can pick them out right away, like within 10 seconds of speaking to somebody. Is this somebody that's going to drain my energy, or is this somebody that's going to enhance it? And if they're going to drain my energy, I'm nice to them, I'm polite to them, I say hello, I say goodbye, and I go about my business. But I'm very careful, because I am like anyone. If I'm around people that are positive and that are have a good mindset, it's good for me. If I'm around people that aren't, not good for me. So I've learned over the years to put myself first in that regard and make sure that I have that invisible fence between me and things that are not good for me, or in terms of negativity specifically.
Yeah. Thank you so much for mentioning that. This was one of my goals in Q1. And ever since I made this shift to bring the negative external chatter outside away, I've also been able to get it outside of my own. Like, I'm not perfect still. I still have some moments, right? Just because everyone does. But it's been one of my goals, and it's been an absolute game changer for me, my relationship with my wife and my family. And so it's just been a really great thing. So thank you for mentioning that. I love it. Okay. Last question. What tool or process has become one of your most important time, money, or energy saving ninja magic tricks that you use every day?
Ooh, that's a good question. What tool or process? I'm sure there's one but it's not jumping out at me. It's funny. This is what's coming to mind is I have this new ritual where every day when I drive to my office, I fill up a nice big cup of kombucha. I don't drink coffee, but I love kombucha. And my ride into my office is about 22 minutes. And I just drive into the office. I try not to do anything. I try not to be on any calls or anything. And I just slowly drink my kombucha. And I know how to time it where right when I'm pulling in, that's that last sip. And then boom, I get to the office and I go. And for some reason, it's relaxing, but it's also energizing for me.
That's really cool. I love that. Just my wife is a naturopathic doctor, and so she has me drinking that often, and as well as some other things. She likes to experiment on me, so that's cool.
So she's a believer in kombucha, because some people don't believe in it, and I just don't know.
Yeah, because just FYI for everyone out there and for you, it's fermented, so it's helpful for your gut, and then also in some cases has caffeine, so it also gets you going if you're a caffeine drinker. So that combination between helping your gut and then also boosting your metabolism, especially when you're in the contemplative moments of driving to the office. I think that those things stack on top of each other. Another cool thing for you to mention that's really simple, people can do.
It's also cool too, because I intermittent fast. So I only eat, for whatever it is, about 5 hours a day.
Yeah, great.
6 hours a day, something like that. So if it's under 50 calories, allegedly, it doesn't count. So my glass of kombucha is 30 calories or something like that. So I have that first thing in the morning. And even though I don't really eat till usually about 2 o'clock, but it's nice because it still does its purpose and it doesn't break my fast. So.
Love it. Is it, just out of curiosity, is it carbonated or is not carbonated, your kombucha?
Oh yeah, it's carbonated.
Okay. I believe I haven't tried this before with carbonated ones, but there is a kombucha that I've had before that had chia seeds in it that was amazing.
I love that one. It's from GTS.
Okay, yeah, so you know it then. That's right.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Very cool.
I like that one a lot. But I get they don't have it in the huge bottles, and I get the huge bottles since I'm having like probably a 10-ounce glass every day. I go through it pretty quickly.
I can imagine.
That is one of the best. It's probably the best one. Actually.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Anyway, Dan, we could talk about this for ages, but man, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before you head off and continue with the rest of your day here, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about how they can find you, what you've got going on in the world, and just generally how they can reach out?
Sure. So first of all, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, so you can find me there if that's a platform that you frequent. My first name is Dan, last name is Lewkowicz, Lewkowicz. You can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. In terms of what I'm involved in the world, I've got a lot of net lease deals that I'm working on. There's always something interesting. So please reach out. The stuff that we have on market is available. If you call me and I have something I just got that day, you might be the first one to see it. So yeah, please definitely reach out. I'm going to give out my cell phone number. It's 248-943-2838. If anybody wants to, first of all, anything real estate related, I'm always happy to talk. If you have commercial property and you want to know what it's worth, I'm happy to put a set of eyes on it and give you a property evaluation. And if there's anything I can do to add value, you need some advice in the industry or you're new or whatever, I'm happy to help. So between LinkedIn, my cell phone, you can reach out. I also have a course. It's called the CRE Pro course. Actually, I'm drinking from one of our cups right now. Our website is creprocourse.com. It's a commercial real estate training course primarily aimed at those who are interested in getting into the brokerage world, but we have had a lot of feedback from people who are investors who have really enjoyed the course as well. So that's a great resource. But yeah, anything I can do to add value, please reach out. I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Dan. And just so you know, too, and the audience, we'll be linking all of the social media account information, including that'll be going out along with the show notes. You can get it at elevateequity.org/podcast. And then Dan's name should come up there as one of the blog articles. You can go ahead and click his name and then have access to all of those cool tips, including the kombucha drinking heading into the office each morning. So, Dan, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And yeah, absolutely. And for you listeners who have made it all the way to the end here, we want to thank you as well for listening. And please, wherever you're watching this or listening to this, please interact with us. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, just comment wherever you're seeing it, because when you do that, it helps appease the algorithm gods so that we can get more exposure for Dan to other people, and then also get more people exposed so we can find more guests just like Dan to come on the show. So thank you very much for coming on, Dan, and you all have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you next time. See you later.